A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Tonight I'm chatting all things technology. In the first segment, I'll be chatting with Rajesh Dhuddu, SVP and Global Business Head Tech Mahindra. And in the second segment, a very interesting conversation is lined up with Naveen Soni, President Lexus India. Listen in. Thank you, Rajesh, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Pleasure is mine.
So, Rajesh, as I was, speaking to you just before the interview, the theme for our show this season is Ideas for New India.
Right.
So, I want to begin this interview by asking you, what are some of the big ideas that you think will really have a profound impact on the global tech space as well as take India forward in the coming years?
Oh, there are many. It'll be very difficult to single out one or two ideas that will have a profound impact on the industry, especially the ideas from the tech space. But if I have to look back and summarize in terms of what are some of the key trends that are happening in the industry, which are going to be game changer compared to the established practices previously, everything that moves in future will be autonomous. Everything that gets built in the world will be first built in the virtual world.
Okay.
Earlier, the practice was people used to design in the real world, then come up with a prototype, test the prototype in the real world and go back to the lab to optimize that particular prototype. Now, there's a fundamental change in the approach, right? It will be first built into a virtual world, which means a number of technologies have to come together, whether it is virtualization technologies, whether it is cloud technologies, whether it is edge technologies, people having access to bandwidth on demand, mobile edge computing, and in the entire scheme of things that they are going to look at things in a newer perspective, security also plays an important role. And established security practices are not going to be optimal. So people have to look at newer security practices based on decentralized approaches. So from that perspective, blockchain-based cybersecurity practices come into play. And we have seen in terms of how artificial intelligence has represented itself, right? Today, if you look at developments in AI, I think people will clearly say before ChatGPT or after ChatGPT. So a number of things are happening, but if I have to iron out or single out in terms of 4 or 5, there will be obviously metaverse, there will be vision AI, generative AI, quantum computing, edge from a mobile edge computing perspective, in combination with 5G and 6G are going to be the focus areas.
Right. So Tech Mahindra has been at the forefront of innovation and technology. You forayed into the metaverse last year.
Right.
So tell me, what are the specific opportunities are you seeing in this emerging field?
So metaverse, I see opportunities in 3 different buckets. One, we call it as the retail metaverse. The second one, we call it as the commercial metaverse. And the third one, we call it as industrial metaverse. Now, retail metaverse is purely from an engagement of brands from a B2C perspective. Now, because of millennials, because of Gen Z, and various customers hanging on the digital channels, it becomes very important to engage them on the metaverse-based channel. And we are not saying it purely for the sake of technology, right? Because in the existing business channels, whether it is phone-based support, web-based support, app-based support, the support is suboptimal. It's not completely immersive in nature. For example, think about the real estate industry. You and me have bought homes by looking at the floor plan, by looking at a sample apartment, by looking at audio-visual representation where it is clearly said it is an artistic impression and not a real thing that you will get into.
Correct.
And we made those decisions. And think about it, how suboptimal those decisions are. So now there's an opportunity where you can teleport yourself to your future home. And we've done that for a group company called Mahindra Life Spaces. So these are the opportunities that are coming in metaverse in a B2C kind of a segment. commercial metaverse is purely from an enterprise to employee perspective. Think about the large companies where they onboard more than thousands of people every month. And if you have to give unique, predictable, and repeatable kind of an experience to those employees, it becomes virtually impossible.
Sure.
So we now have companies conducting their onboarding sessions in metaverse. And it's not only about onboarding, it's also collaboration between different employees. If you look at channels like Zoom, channels like MS Teams, they're not optimal from a remote working perspective. You don't get the feeling of employees who are logging in remotely or teleporting to work. They don't get a feeling of co-locating themselves. So there are opportunities that need to be addressed. That's why now Teams is going overboard to bring the metaverse components into Teams by using their offering called Mesh. The third one is the industrial metaverse, where to the point that I mentioned earlier, everything gets built into a virtual world first, which means the digital twins come into existence. And those digital twins need to be interoperable. And why the companies are doing this? Because they know that when you're looking at from a virtual asset first, you are able to identify inefficiencies a lot more better compared to a physical world. That's why they're looking at virtualization first. To sum up the opportunities in these three different areas: direct to consumer, which is the retail metaverse; enterprise to employee, which is the commercial metaverse; B2B, which is the industrial metaverse. These are the opportunities in the metaverse area.
That's very insightful. So technology is a disruptor, and it also brings with itself a set of challenges, especially when it comes to safety and security.
Right.
Tell me, in a world that's getting increasingly connected, how can businesses, especially smaller, medium-sized businesses, leverage technologies like cloud security, cyber security, to really protect their businesses?
Absolutely. So there are two practices that are available. One is in terms of hardening the security from an evolving cybersecurity practice, and also from evolving tools and applications. That's one area. The second area is, no matter how hardened the security infrastructure and the practices are, if the employees do not confine to the safety practices, the hygiene aspects, it leads to what I call as the failure of human firewalls. So what is more important is to have a functional security firewall. In addition to that, have an equally functional human firewall. How do human firewalls become more effective? But what is human firewall? It's you and me who constitute that particular firewall, which means you should know what are the safe practices, what is the code of practice, and what are the do's and don'ts. And today in the metaverse, the code of practice is not evolved. It is like how internet was when it came into existence. It was like a wild west. People did not know what to do. They engaged in interactions, conversations without restraint, and that has led to irreparable losses. And we are seeing the same practices being adopted from a metaverse perspective. So one is, as a fundamental step, everyone should become aware of do's and don'ts in metaverse, and all businesses should contribute to what I call as a code of practice, which can be equally applicable, and SMBs should be at the forefront while evolving that code of practice, so that they not only become aware, not only contribute to it, but actively implement it.
Since we are talking all things technology today, I can't help but bring up ONDC, which has been creating a lot of buzz, on social media lately. Tell me, what is your view on that? How do you think that will really impact the technological landscape in India?
Oh, it's a very, very smart and a very calculated move by Government of India. See, for any good commerce to survive, there are 2 or 3 elements that go into existence. One is identity, so that you know the customer is a real customer and not a fake customer. The second one is a payment mechanism which is available, where the customer should be able to pay in a seamless fashion and in a frictionless fashion. So now if you look at it from a identity layer, India has been able to get it right through Aadhaar. Today,
Correct.
wherever you go, Aadhaar becomes your form of identity. And it's a fairly well-established form of identity. From a payment mechanism, today you're spoiled for the choices of payment. Imagine you're going to a shop, then sometimes you decide to pay via Google Pay, sometimes you decide to pay via your credit card, debit card, prepaid card, or Paytm. So the number of payment choices have evolved like anything. And from a money transfer perspective, then you have UPI, you have RTGS, NEFT.
Absolutely.
So with identity being well established and payment being well established, the only missing piece is commerce, right? And you cannot have a successful commerce in an absence of a good identity layer or in an absence of a good payment layer. So the government now realized that let's bring this commerce layer and democratize the access to that particular commerce, right? Completely disintermediate it. And that's where the ONDC, Open Network Digital Commerce, fits into. And I think it's a masterstroke by government. What it does is it will stimulate the economy. It will make commerce accessible to small merchants, not only in tier 2, tier 3 cities, but at every gram panchayat, without the need to pay expensive commissions to the merchants who facilitate this. So it's going to play a very, very important role. And as you know, Aadhaar, in conjunction with this payment transformation, has led to a significant increase in the commerce in the country. So the next layer is going to come through ONDC. That's where ONDC plays an important role, as per me.
Wonderful. Well, those were some really interesting observations. Thank you, Rajesh, for speaking
You're
to
welcome.
us.
You're welcome.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. And right now I'll be chatting with automaker Lexus India. Thank you, Naveen, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Pleasure is mine.
So India is one of the fastest growing markets for Lexus India. From what I've read, since 2021, you've grown more than 3 times. So I really want to begin this interview by asking you to sort of tell us what is your outlook on the Indian market, and specifically for Lexus India, what's the target?
Sure. So actually the luxury car market has been through a very difficult phase, and as I said, the market has gone through a sinusoidal curve of sorts. So what we've seen is that during the COVID times, the market shrunk by nearly half of its previous numbers. Therefore, post-COVID, there were a few things that happened. One is that the savings that happened, especially in the high end of the market, was coming back to the market. Second is the most important thing is the attitude of the people that it seems to have undergone a change in terms of what we like to call as popularly the YOLO effect. You only live once. People have started to realize how fragile life could be. So they were willing to express themselves, and there's no better way than buying a luxury car and driving and seen in one, so to say. So there was a big impact. Luxury car market last year, over the previous year, grew by nearly double of the mass market, and we were fortunate enough that that being a lower base company, we could grow more than 76% of the previous high. That is in actual business done, but like you said, from the business generated point of view, we were nearly 3 times of the previous year. And the momentum continues this year, and hopefully we will see much better numbers. The industry should break its previous high of around 41,000 units, and we should participate well enough in this growth. Yeah.
Right. So Lexus completes 6 years, right? It's
Yes.
already completed 6 years in
Yes,
India.
March.
And the brand is often known for its attention to detail, the focus on customer experience. Now, I want to understand, in the luxury auto market, which is dominated by your German automakers, how are you, setting yourself apart? What is your strategy? And also, what role does technology play in this?
Sure. So basically what we've seen is that as far as the market is concerned, there is a certain class of customers who has honestly this keen attention to detail eye, and they are interested in understanding more about the product, which is synchronizing with what their thinking way is. So what we've seen is that Lexus has its own set of customers. Most of our customers have some affiliation or some knowledge or some idea or some intention to know more about Japanese hospitality, Japanese culture, etc. That is what we have seen, and those set of customers do come to us time and again, and they are very happy to be proud owners, and through word of mouth this kind of business grows. We'd like to be known as a luxury lifestyle brand, not just a luxury mobility provider, but a luxury lifestyle brand. So for that, what we try to do is we try to gauge more and more insights about our consumers. We started a program called Lexus Live, and this Lexus Live program is becoming a benchmark of sorts for matching the consumer expectations by how we can provide the same. There are various facets of these programs. Sometimes it is sports, sometimes it is music, sometimes it is food, and we like to invite such customers, guests we call them, towards in these luxurious guest experience centers, and then they experience culinary experiences or music experiences, which further curates their taste towards the product. So therefore we do an extensive knowledge gathering about these guests, and we collect all these databases and share it so that we can know more and more how we can align ourselves to the consumer needs.
So I understand Toyota has its manufacturing facility in India. So do you have plans to actually set up manufacturing facilities here in the near future?
So of the 6 vehicles that we sell, 5, yes, what you said is right, is imported from fully built condition from Japan. We are fortunate enough that one of the vehicles, that is ES, which is the vehicle that we sell, most of the vehicles that we sell is that sedan. So that vehicle is produced locally.
Speaking of electric revolution, are you encouraged by the rate of adoption of EVs in India?
Definitely.
And I also read an article of yours where you mentioned that the future is bright in electric, but the industry needs to consider hybrid as the bridge to the future. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, what happens is that what our vision as a corporate is that yes, we would also like to go all electric by say 2035, and that's a global mandate given to us also, that by 2035 all Lexuses produced across the globe will be all electrics. But what we also believe is that for consumers there will be many choices in technologies, whether it is a hybrid vehicle, whether it is a hydrogen vehicle, whether it is a plug-in hybrid vehicle, or whether it's even a ICE engine vehicle. So from that point of view, technologies are evolving. So what is it that we are trying to reduce? Either we are reducing the carbon footprint or we are reducing the fuel import bill. As far as these two is concerned, from the current situation that prevails in the country, I think the hybrid vehicles do provide a very optimal solution for the consumers as well as the stakeholders, that is the government's needs of improving the fuel efficiency or lowering the carbon footprint.
So coming back to the auto luxury market in India, tell me, the market is pretty small compared to India's auto industry. What do you think are the predominant challenges, that are hindering its growth? Is it mainly related to pricing, taxation policies, infrastructure? What can you tell us?
I think it is more than this. On the supply side, I think we have to, when I say supply side, the consumer side, it has to evolve a little more. Why I say this is because if you benchmark, say, other markets, the highest, of course, is Europe, where 18 to 19% of the total market is the luxury car market. Even China has more than 14-15%. Even countries like Japan have 4 to 5%. So, which is mostly a middle class economy. So the spread of wealth, if it is a pyramid like a spread, then it will be very difficult. In India, the top of the pyramid, that is 1% of India controls say 73% of the national wealth. This makes it less customers to be eligible to participate in the luxury car market.
Well, switching gears a bit here, tell me, what's the role of OEMs, when it comes to innovation and growth, especially in the automotive supply chain, and especially when we talk about MSMEs, what's your take on that?
So MSMEs is a very, very important component of our economy. Whatever is necessary to make the car, the one vehicle that I spoke about, locally manufactured, that is has to be having local composition based on the government requirements, and we are fulfilling those. But the good thing about the Indian supplier base is concerned, I think they are world class. They are not only supplying to India, but they're supplying to overseas markets also. There is a component of, there's a critical KPI of what is called as parts per million, rejections. So the PPM rates have been, for our company also, have been coming down dramatically, and we find that they are one of the best globally, and that gives not only us confidence but our head office confidence that we can manufacture cars which are of the same standard, same class, same workmanship as a global standard.
The theme for our show this season is Ideas for New India.
Okay.
I want to ask you, what do you think are some of the big ideas or the trends that's really going to change the game for the auto industry in India?
The biggest idea in my mind is utilizing the younger set of population. The young India is a different India. I don't want to get into controversies of how many colors India has, but definitely the most brightest color that India has is the young population, because they think differently, they behave differently, they act differently, they spend differently. For them, it is about living for today. But at the same time, the younger set of population, if you can, I think address their needs. If you can relate to them, if your brand can talk to them, I think there is a very, very good business case for any brand to succeed.
Well, all the very best. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you and goodbye.